am a regional administrator for the Virginia Department of Corrections. I cover this region. I'm on the community corrections side, which means the central region. So I go from Northern Virginia to Richmond to Winchester, down to Halifax. Under my purview, I have 18 probation and parole districts, a couple of community correctional facilities, detention and diversion, and I have 6 CRPs with our community residential program. So they're all under my watch. So I'll tell you, I stay on the road a lot. A CRP is a community residential program, which we have. It's a community residential program that we have in our area. I tell you what, I wish I would have came this morning because I came just to listen. And I came just to hear. And I didn't want to say too much. Because when you think of corrections, everybody has an opinion about corrections. And normally it is not favorable about corrections. And one thing you'll get from me today is, I'm real. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat anything. I'm going to tell you we are great at some things. I'm going to tell you we're bad at some things. And I'm going to tell you we're working on some things. It's reality. It's the reality of our business. I will tell you this, we have come a long way. And it doesn't mean that we've come a long way. Let me tell you this, why have we come a long way? 20 years of Virginia Department of Corrections. I started at a maximum security prison in Buckingham Correctional Center. That's where I started. Fresh out of college from Virginia, I chose to go to prison. Why? I don't know. Well, you know what, I'll tell you why. Because, you know, when I left college and I was a sociology criminal justice major, you know, my parents were pushing me into law enforcement, state police, FBI, and all that. And I won't say I was a bright kid, I was a football player, but I always told my parents that, you know, anybody could put handcuffs on people.
That's right.
But since I have this degree, and I was one of the few members of my family that has a degree, and since I'm smarter than everybody else because I have one, my job in life was to what? Why do people commit crime? Why are people like me committing crime? So I don't know how I got to Buckingham, but I always tell people this. My first day at Buckingham Correctional Center, we're on lockdown. And I go in the back, and we're feeding. And we're in B building, and it is April, and it is hot as you know what.
No air conditioning.
And I get to B3 and B4, and all I see are colored faces, black faces, looking through a screen about this big. In the whole tier. That's all I saw. Now, for an African American young man coming to college who thinks he has the answers, what do you think that done for me? Am I part of the system? Am I a problem? Why am I here? And I had to take this hour-and-a-half drive home because it was a horrible day for me. And I'm going home and I wonder, did I choose the right path? Why am I doing this? Because it had a profound effect on me. And for some reason, I went back the next day. And I've been going back for the last 22 years. And I go back because of this. I am a firm believer that the interactions I have with our population make a difference. I can make a difference. No matter how big or how small, no matter where I work, I can make a difference in people's lives. When I stop believing that, when I'm not feeling that anymore, I gotta leave because now I become part of the problem. And I want to be the solution. And I really feel that we've come a long way. I can remember being a PO in Farmville, Virginia, being a probation and parole officer, and we had this, and it's illegal practice. And this is what we used to do. It didn't matter what color you were. If you tested positive, I would issue a warrant. You would go to jail for the weekend. And on Monday or Tuesday, I would take the warrant back. Guess what? Without a hearing. That was a practice less than 20 years ago. Due process wasn't followed. Issue the warrant, pull it back. We did that stuff. Why? We don't know why. We just did it. You were trained to do it. It was a locality problem. You do it now, you get sued. That won't happen now. But we did those things. And what did we do? We made people worse. We made people worse. Now, I don't know about you, but for corrections, we're not supposed to be making people worse. Our policy and procedures are red onion. We can tell you right now, made people worse. And if the Department of Corrections is about one less victim, saving communities, we gotta change some of the things we've done. We gotta change some of our practices. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're about. Saving communities, one less victim. That's all around this whole body of work called evidence-based practices. That's what corrections departments have got to be about. And I can attest to you today, that's what the Virginia Department of Corrections is about. Now, we're not perfect, but we're striving toward those goals, those step-down programs that the Senator talked about. You know, yeah, it got notoriety, but we started those even before people were looking. Because I can tell you, as a probation and parole chief, and I was a chief in Fredericksburg, and I'll never forget this day, it's a Friday at 5 o'clock. I still don't know why I was at work. It was a couple of officers. A van pulls up from a prison. A guy gets out, handcuffed, shackled, in a jumpsuit. They unhook everything and say, he's yours. What? What are you going to do with him? This wasn't 7 years ago, people. This guy came from Wallens Ridge, another one of our supermaxes out there, transported to us on a Friday at 5 o'clock. Now, what would happen if we weren't there? Sir, good luck to you, not my problem. See, our time as prisons, we hold you. We're going to transport you. Hey, I'm sorry the place is closed. Good luck to you. Maybe there's a bridge. Somebody can help you. I don't know. Bye, see you. And then we're lucky we're there. And we're able to help this guy, we're able to get him food, get him shelter. We're able to do some things to help him. But if we weren't there, that's what would have happened. I'll give you another scenario of getting a guy out of Red Onion who said as soon as I get to Fredericksburg, I'm going to shoot, kill, and maim anybody I want to. So they call us. So what do we do? What do I do? Well, I'm a nosy guy. What did I do? I call the police. We're going down there. Let's go to the bus station. If he's going to top it off, let's go. We get there. He gets off the bus. He's confronted by us. He's like, whoa, what's going on? I said, well, sir, you made some pretty powerful statements. You made some statements that we're concerned about. What was his problem? He had nowhere to go.
Right.
He had no money.
Right.
He had no family.
Right.
He made those statements because he didn't want to come home. He thought by making those statements,
Right.
we would keep him in. And we still had to release him because we couldn't keep him in. Guess what? He got shelter. He got a home. We didn't find him a job. And today, probably about 6 months ago, I looked up, he is off probation, doing very well. I say this to say that. Our director, and Director Clark, has brought in an enthusiasm to our department. And it started with Governor McDonald. And I don't care what your political affiliation is. The work that Governor McDonald has done for reentry and making reentry and the restoration of rights.
That's right.
A topic point that we can talk about and we can do has been one of the greatest things that happened in Virginia, in my opinion. It has started the conversation that we need to have. You know what? And it's made the Department of Corrections a lot better. Because although we're one agency, we were siloed. We had community corrections on one side, we had prison on the other side, and we didn't talk at all. And I've been on both sides. And prison would give you people would get out of prison, they would come to probation and parole, they would be dropped off like I said, they would wipe their hands off, and then we'll pick them up. We never communicated at all, even though we're one agency. So under Director Clark's leadership, we put this whole thing of oneness, meaning that we're one agency. Really meaning that we want to improve our outcomes if we are going to reduce recidivism. If it's one less victim, saving communities, we've got to be one to do it, not siloed. And the communications that we have now and the hands-off are 10 times better now because 2 years out, if I have a guy that's homeless, we got reentry specialists working with that person, working with probation and parole in the community to start rebuilding some of these family situations that have been torn apart. And I'll tell you, out of all our struggles, that's our #1 struggle right now, is family unification. How do we work with DSS and other agencies to build these bonds and get it back to where they were supposed to be? Because they've been torn down. And the gentleman is correct. Missouri has a great model. He's right on. The more exposure, our client population has with family members, the likelihood to recidivate drastically goes down based on that. Drastically. So my whole thing is this: if we have data that shows that, and we're about saving communities, one less victim, why aren't we doing it more? Why aren't we doing it more? Why aren't we pushing it more? But hold that thought. Let me give you some data. And you know the Pew Center on States did a report a couple years ago about 1 in 100 incarcerated. Pew Center on States. They're an agency that does a lot of research. Pew Center on States did some research on the incarcerated population. And it was 1 in 100. All right? Now, if you really talk about correctional control, meaning jails, prisons, and everything else, probation and parole, it was 1 in 31. You know, to tell you this, that we were supposed to be the freest country in the world, but we incarcerate more people than communist China, Russia, anywhere else. But we're the freest capitalist country in the world, but we incarcerate at 2, 3, 4 times higher than any other country in the world. All right? So that was 1 in 100, and there's 1 in 31. All right? Then if I ask you this question, what is the operating budget today of the Virginia Department of Corrections? What would you say? We ain't done. We ain't done.
I would say 996
He's cheating!
and 16 billion from the non-general fund.
It's almost $1 billion. Now, I tell people that. Now I ask you this question. As a taxpayer, and I'm a taxpayer, what is the cost or what is the benefit of your return on that? As a taxpayer, are you safer? Are your doors unlocked right now in your car in the parking lot?
Yes.
Are you safer?
No. Right here.
Are you safer? So what is the return on your investment? Because as a taxpayer for $1 billion, it's some of your money coming out your pocket. What is the return on your investment?
0.
It's not much. It's not much. So if you know the return is not much, and then if you think of it this way, $1 billion, what's suffering? What's not being paid for?
No relationship between incarceration and safety.
Neighborhood.
You see, there is no correlation between incarceration and safety. But guess what? It was $1 billion when we also know there's a body of research that the more education people receive, the less likely they'll become criminal, they go do crime, but that money is gone where? Over into corrections. So what is the return on your investment? And when I tell corrections people this, they're like, man, don't say that. But I say, look, I'm gonna tell you something right now. We will always have jobs. Don't ever fear that. As a taxpayer, if we're about one less victim and safer communities, we've got to have these conversations. Because if we're not, how do we expect to solve problems? And this whole thing of government and reentry has made the Department of Corrections take a hard look at some of our practices. Solitary confinement was one of them. All right? But you talk about supervised probation, oh my God, you talk about a whole different world now. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about for a few minutes, of the errors that we've made in community corrections. See, my thing is this. Somebody on supervised probation has a drug problem. You test positive. What do? We like, yeah. While we think this magic bullet of jail, which we know for years hasn't done anything, but what we do, we issue a warrant. And what do we issue a warrant under the disguise of? Public safety. Because at the end of the day, if you ask any corrections professional what we're about, it's about what? Public safety. So if we have people who are testing positive for drugs, marijuana, I don't care what the drug is, and you come in, we still have some localities, one positive, you're going to jail. Even though there is boatloads of information and data to suggest we're making that person worse by doing it. So now we did, and a lot of it is beyond, what's beyond corrections. Because now when you talk about probation and parole, what are you talking about? Local. You're talking about common fraternities. You're talking about judges. You're talking about defense. It's really out of corrections' hands. All corrections can do is what? Educate. And for the last 3 years, we have been educating our judiciary on these practices. Basically, we tell them this. Anybody that's a drug offense, relapse is a part of what? Recovery. We know that. We understand that. We got the data to suggest that. So just because you test positive one time should not mean an arrest warrant. It shouldn't mean that. And I guarantee you today, there's only one locality today. And if you know about Virginia, you'll know what locality I'm talking about. There's only one locality today that if you test positive, you're going to jail. The rest of them is not happening. And I can tell you that right now, on the first positive test. But one locality is very conservative, and that's their practice. And we're working on that. I will tell you, it is not in my region. I applaud that. It is not in my region. But from a community corrections standpoint, yes, it is something. Toward that. Well, it's Midwest. It's Danville. I told you I was going to be realistic. It's Danville, Virginia. That's what it is. There's a conservative judiciary, and at that, a positive test could put you back in jail. Likelihood it would. All right? But we just got to educate people on that. Now, I'll tell you this. In community corrections, do we profile? Yes, we have. Every law enforcement criminal justice agency has profile. But what does profiling produce for us? Nothing. It's an educated guess. At best, profiling is 50-50. And to me, 50% ain't getting it done, it's failing. So we really prescribe to this whole thing of evidence-based practice using data to drive our decision making. But we're doing one thing that's better than anybody in the country, is we're using our risk instrument. See, I can't control who the courts place on probation. I have very little control over that. What we do control, that once you're on probation, what do we do with you? So we have a risk instrument that will tell you low, medium, and high. All right? Of course, if you're high risk, you will get more scrutiny than the medium and the low. But if you're low risk, guess what we do? We basically leave you alone. Because there's data that suggests low risk people really are not going to recidivate or reoffend, because low risk people have pro-social attitudes, they're going to self-correct. And the more involvement that they have with us of bringing them in doing urine screens, we're going to make them worse. So what we've done is use this instrument that shows low, medium, and high, and our low-risk people are on telephone reporting. They don't even come in. They don't even come in. And do we do urine screens on them? Yes. Do some test positive? Yes. Because although they pro-social, they ain't on probation for nothing. They ain't innocent. But I tell you what, they self-correct. And we are getting these people off probation, because that's what we're supposed to be doing in the first place. Get them off probation. So using our risk instrument as compass has been huge for us, because it allows us to sort our population and concentrate on those medium and high that need our attention. That's new for us, because historically we thought everyone needed our attention. Or we thought everyone is coming in once a month, because if we see them, just by seeing them, it's going to lower their recidivism. Oh my God, that's what we did. Case loads are skyrocket. We see people running people in and out, but you only had a 5-minute meeting. And I always told staff when I was chief, what do you think are happening in a 5-minute monthly meeting? What's happening? Not much of nothing. What's really happening? We're bringing them down to the office. We're checking the box. We're not even having conversations, and then they're gone. And you'll do a check-in day. Huh?
And missing work.
Missing work, missing everything, missing all kinds of stuff. Sitting in our lobby for an hour and a half just to see us. What message does that send?
You're not worth it.
You're not worth it. So what we'll be able to do is, if we take the low risk and skirt them out the telephone reporting, now when we have our interactions, and if our interactions are meaningful, and we're having conversations, real conversations that can affect change, it's making us better. It's making us better. Now, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. But I'll tell you what, we are moving in a direction that I am very pleased, I'm excited about. Because in community corrections in Virginia, if we stay this course, we're going to reap awesome benefits. Awesome benefits. I was talking about our recidivism rate. Our recidivism rate in Virginia is 23.4%. The second lowest in the country. Now, I'm going to put an X by that. We're the second lowest in the country. Now, when we look at recidivism in Virginia, it's a recommitment back to DLC, Department of Corrections. That's how we do the data. All right? Now, you data people, you also know that if I say that, what am I excluding?
Jails.
Jails? What else am I excluding? Rearrest, technical violations, and all that. I'm excluding a bunch of stuff.
But other states count.
Yes, some states do, but 22 states do it this way. And if you look at recidivism, you can do it all kinds of ways. Well, we took ours one step further. We know it's 23.4% back to DOC. But what is it in a specific locality, Alexandria? What is the recidivist rate for Arlington? What is it for Fredericksburg? What is it for Fairfax? See, I want to know that stuff. So now we're doing it per locality. Now, why is that important? Well, Alexandria and Arlington is different than Richmond. It's different than Fredericksburg. So what are those rates and what are those factors driving those rates? Now, I will probably have that data for 8 or 9 months, but when I get it, I can't wait to see it. Because we said reentry is local, and reentry is local. Communities have to embrace people coming back to their community because it's a local approach. State government can mandate anything they want, but governors come and go, platforms come and go. But if you truly want good reentry, communities have to own it. It's the same thing about recidivism reduction. If communities see their number in Alexandria, I'll throw a number out. Let's say Alexandria is 35%. If Alexandria sees 35% and see Prince William at 23%, what do you think Alexandria's going to do?
Go find out what they're doing. over
They may do that, they may do nothing. But data, once I see it, and once we show it, are we obligated to do something about it? Now I know for my chiefs, once we see it, oh, there will be an obligation to do something about it. Because we do own some of that. But a reduction in recidivism has got to be a community approach. The community has to come together because 95% of our people are coming home. We forget that. We forget that. And I know a lot of times people say, tough on crime. Not tough, let's be smart about it. People are going to commit crime. There's cognitive distortions and there's all kind of other things going on why people commit crime. That's okay, we know that. We can't solve that right now. What we control is, what do we do when they get back? Because they are coming back. We control that. The communities control that. And they do it with open arms, and we work together, whether it's with DSS, OAR, DLC, a collaborative approach.
GOE.
Everything. Department of Education, everybody.
Please.
If the more people we get at the table, the better our outcomes. And for all those stakeholders, all those agencies, if we're about one less victim, okay, saving communities, how can the community not prescribe to that? Knowing at the end of the day, if we are successful in this endeavor, how much money do we save? How better are we? We can divert money to education, transportation, all kinds of stuff. But it has to start from a collaborative approach of us having a crucial conversation and admitting the things that we've done wrong. Because in criminal justice times, just like DOC is siloed, criminal justice, we've also siloed. We believe sometimes our way is the best way, and for corrections, I'm telling you, we own that. We thought, you know what, we don't need your help. We're corrections, we're gonna do it by ourselves. Don't need your help, nor did we want it. What did that produce for us? Not much. Because what we're producing now with our reentry councils and this collaborative approach is 10 times better than we were before. And while we got a long way to go, and like I told you, we are not perfect, we got a long way to go, I'm excited about criminal justice in Virginia because we're starting a conversation to have. We're talking about advocacy, we're talking about racial profiling. It's time to have crucial, honest conversations that solve problems. We've been talking a lot of stuff for a long time, and all we do is talk, but it's time for us to solve it. And I will tell you that the Department of Corrections, on what we control, let's have the conversation. We're willing to have the conversation. We're willing to reflect. If you have a better way, let's hear it. We'll tell you our way. But collaboratively by working together, we can produce better outcomes. And better outcomes produce a better Virginia in my standpoint, okay? So that's my two spiel. I'm gonna have some questions and I'm gonna tie some up at the end, okay?
Not a question, just a statement.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope I have the influence in Petersburg with the superintendent whose office is over top of me, that I can say to him that at convocation next year, Marcus Hodges needs to come and speak to the Petersburg community.
Well, you don't need Marcus Hodges.
Oh, in Petersburg, with your size and the way you deliver, I'll have to talk to you off record.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what we did in Petersburg. We got a chief down there named Ron Revish, and we have a reentry.
Oh, we're personal friends. That's what I'm saying. That
We are rolling with
those
Petersburg.
we need to come together. My point is that Petersburg, the educators will be there. My sorors will be sitting up front gloating. The AKAs, all those people will be sitting up front and they want to be recognized as retired persons. So what I'm saying is, instead of doing all this collaboration, this person over here, this person doing this, Marcus Hodges can sit up there and with your size and the way you command an audience, then the ministers will be there, the educators will be there, the social workers will be there from social services. In other words, all those agencies, and somebody might be down there from DOE up in Richmond. You see my point?
Yes.
Instead of all of us running around, you're saying the same thing that we were saying when I was in my master's program in 1972. The 74, it's just a new name. Evidence-based was cultural competency then.
That's right.
Now we're talking about there's no such thing as a bad kid. Reframing. Then from reframing we go to collaborative, whatever it is, and then you're all back again. In other words, what I was trying to tell you all about my experience with Angela Davis is that you have to be a historian. History doesn't start when the first slave came up into Jamestown. You have to think universally. This is a universal problem. And from there we come down to the globe. Then we come down to the federal level. Then we come down to the state level. Then we come down to the local level. And if all these people are going in 10 different directions, Marcus Hodges, superintendent, will command everybody's attention in Petersburg.
Well, let me tell you about other than Marcus Hodges. We are where we are today, and we've had great leadership in the Department of Corrections.
Right.
But Director Clark, and I don't know if you've met Director Clark.
Yes, it is.
Director Clark has been a visionary leader that has taken our department, and you know Jim Collins talked about good to great,
Yes.
or great by choice.
Yes.
Director Clark has really stretched the envelope of what we can do. See, we always had it in us, and we have great people, but now we can do what we want to do. So a lot of this, I mean, I give Bob McDonald credit because he brought in Director Clark,
Yes.
but the Department of Corrections has changed under Director Clark's leadership, and I'll say
Sure
that.
it is.
Okay? Next question. Here and then here. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
How is the recidivism rate? How has it changed since you've started more collaboration between community corrections and the prisons?
Oh, I'll tell you this. I mean, before a couple of years ago, it was up to 27%, and that's the definition that I'm giving you. All right. So we're doing a study now to look at, since we've started these reentry councils, because I'm gonna tell you what, that's the best thing we have ever. We have local reentry councils. I don't know if you heard of them. If you're in your locality, please go to them. That you have probation, prison, DSS,
Right.
education. You got everybody sitting around the table.
Right.
And in some localities, they are talking about cases getting out.
Right.
We had one DSS director in King George that would go to the prison, because an inmate would say, I don't have a job, I need housing. They would take jobs and housing people to the prison 6 months before he's getting out, having these conversations. The study we're looking at is a 3-year study, and reentry council only been up for 2 years. I don't have that yet. But I'll tell you from what I'm hearing from the localities, I know it's gonna be very favorable that we've gotten better at doing that.
Wonderful.
Okay, so when that comes out, I'll make sure you get it.
Wonderful.
Okay? All right? Yes, ma'am. My fault.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Today, in modern society, it's very easy for someone to check your record. When I was a kid in the 40s and 50s, you'd go to the next town and nobody knew you were ever arrested. This ban the box, is there a way of trying to, so that people really do get a second chance? I mean, it's so easy to look up someone's record now. Anybody, you can be denied an apartment, you can be denied jobs, you can be denied everything today. Whereas 50 years ago, 40, 30 years ago, yeah, you could start over again. You know, is there any data on how can we make a case for banning the box so that people actually do get a second chance?
Well, see, I think that's a great question, and it becomes a problem because we can ban the box, but employers still won't search because it's easy to search. I mean, I can go on the internet and pay $15, less than that now, and can find out your whole criminal history, divorce, and everything else on the internet if it's there. So my thing is this: what we should have done from a local level is to work with some employers and say, you know what, we want you to hire our people. They're on supervised probation. Okay, we know that. We're going to help you. They're going to go to the job. They're going to do this and build a base of employers. From a Department of Corrections standpoint, we even start bonding well, we get them insurance that if this person doesn't work out, you get the money back if you don't. So from a local level, what we're trying to do is get beyond ban the box and really start building this cadre of employers who hire our people, because what we've learned is when that's happening well, the employers start spreading out saying, man, hire these people. I've done it and it's worked well for us. We've had job fairs in prison and out. So I think the more we do to educate employers that yes, these people have made mistakes, but they're trying to correct those. They want to work. Employment is a factor, and they have the backing of the Department of Corrections. I think we win. Now, I'll tell you this. We had to fix ourselves. How can the department say, we want you to hire those, but what do? Do we hire them?
No.
No. Well, guess what? We changed our policies on that. And I don't know how many we have now, but we are hiring former offenders coming out of prison into jobs in the Department of Corrections, because if we want people to hire, we got to hire too. You know, so we're working on that too. So it's a local approach. Thanks for the question. Who else? Somebody else? Yes, ma'am.
This might be a very specific question, but I'm concerned about people who have aged out of foster care. They don't have a family, they weren't, and then they are homeless and find their way into the prison system where they are taken care of. Is there a way we could somehow do something more like the preventive stuff on a different level?
Well, that's what we call pre-entry. That's one of the new words we start talking about. And I'm going to take 5 minutes about a model that's being produced in Charlottesville to deal with that.
A model is?
It's a model in Charlottesville, and we're not really calling it pre-entry, but what we have is we have a local collaborative approach where we have judges, we have police, we have sheriffs, we have jails, we have every criminal justice stakeholder involved. And when police are pulling people in Charlottesville, they're doing a proxy, which is a risk instrument. And they're making a decision with this proxy. If the rate of recidivist is low, based on 3 questions, it's an evidence-based Hawaii model, they may not be charged. Because why? There's a boatload of evidence to suggest that once you enter the system, it's harder to get out of the system. So Charlottesville now even is doing some stuff with law enforcement, even when they're stopping people for crimes, to do this risk instrument. And you know what? If it comes out low, in some cases, they're not charging, which is huge. You know, but it's these collaborative stakeholders approach, and that may solve some of your problems. But the problem we get fostered and we lose families, because what we're not good at Virginia right now is we have 0 what? Halfway houses too.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have those. I mean, and that goes back to 1970s. We don't have them. And if we could ever convince our legislature to go with a halfway house model, where we can step down and give some living and give employment and stuff like that, it greatly helps those cases.
Could they even be pre-release houses?
Yes, they could be privileged.
Because that's where you can afford the money.
Yes. Now let me finish up because I gotta go. She has my number and my card. I'll give you to ask them in the back. If you ever have a Department of Corrections question, whether it's about Red Onion, Wallace Ridge, Community Corrections, anything, email me. If I don't have the answer, I will give it to somebody that will give you the answer. If they do not, give me a call. I'll make sure you get it. All right? So I'll give you that information. And lastly, I'll tell you this. I'm in with this. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago with a bunch of wardens, unit heads, and everything, and we were talking about why are we here? Why are we here? And people were going around the room and saying all kinds of stuff. But guess what resonated why we're here? And it's written by a guy named Sam Parker, who kind of came up with this. And he said this: we are here to make good things happen for other people. See, it's not about us. We are here to make good things happen for other people. Now, if all of us prescribe to that, where would we be today? And that story I'll tell you, we had a graduation at Nottoway Correctional Center with a 19-year-old guy who spent 15 years in prison, who just got his GED. His mother and father, his son, his wife were all in the audience. And he had 5 more years to serve. And you know what he says? Now that I got my GED, I'm going to help all yours though who don't have it, because it's not about me.
You need to figure out how to send him to college while he's still there.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. College while he's still there.
Thank you.
So, hey, look, I thank you for the work that you do. You know, advocacy is tough work, but I'm going to tell you what, our time is now. There's a lot of stuff that we've talked about. We have the collaborative approach in place. We got people who want to listen. We got the senator get up his time to be here. Let's get it done. All right? Thank you very much.